I've paid thousands of dollars in courses to learn what you're basically teaching on your podcast for free. What you're putting out there is so valuable. So, I just really want to acknowledge you, and I definitely send everyone to your podcast.
You were virtually one of the first mentors that I looked up to and started following. You're always one step ahead of the game. So I just wanted to give you kudos and props for that, because lots of people are watching, lots of people are learning from it.
Tucker and the whole TTM crew, Dan and Chris, thanks so much for your support. I love what you guys do, and a huge, huge fan. Having this support's huge. So I'm grateful for that.
What's up, everybody out there in listener land? This is episode 260. You believe that? 260 episodes of the Real Dealz podcast. I know there's a lot of other podcasts that are hitting the iTunes Airstreams, we'll call them, but we'll see if they last 260 episodes, huh? Anyway, this week, I've got an awesome show for you. But before we get into that, last week's show, if you did not listen to it, it's a quickie. It was probably about 20-30 minutes, which is short for us, and it was all about you learn or you earn. And I had some stuff that I wanted to talk about, kind of some challenges that I'd faced, some of our students had faced, and then just kind of extrapolated on it and really dove down the rabbit hole of sometimes when you don't earn, you're actually learning, but you got to use that as an asset for your business as you move forward. So go check out that show if you have not already. But this week, I got a special show. I'm back to an interview show. I'm bringing on a special guest, an individual that I've actually known for a long time, and I've seen his progress through this business and his growth, we'll call it. And over the past year, he's had tremendous growth. A lot of it has to do with himself, so I cannot take most of the credit here, and neither can Justin. He was part of our REI Deal Generator initial round of students that came through, which did help him, but I have to applaud him because he took the majority of the action here. He did all of the things that are required in order to be successful, and now he's reaping the benefits of that. And so I wanted to bring him on. His name's James Thornton, if I didn't mention that already. He's out of the Phoenix area, and he's gone through a lot of challenges that many of you guys out there in Listenerland have probably gone through in terms of questioning whether or not the marketing works, questioning whether or not it's worth spending money on marketing, questioning whether or not this business works, or if it's just a big sham. It's not a big sham, but questioning, right, as to whether or not this is something that you should be doing, that you should be spending money on, that this is an adventure that's worth the time, money, and effort. And so I wanted to bring him on and really dive into where he was, we'll call it a year and a half ago, and where he is today. And the difference in him is night and day. And the reason being is because he's built his marketing machine, he's increased his deal flow tremendously, he's seen the fruits of his labor, and he's just got a whole bunch going on, and he's just a great guy. And so I think you guys are really going to like his story. You're going to like hearing about the journey, because I think a lot of you will have been at the many points along his journey, or maybe you're back where he was a year and a half ago and you want to get where he is today. At a minimum, you will have walked the same path to some extent, and so hopefully his story resonates with you a lot. So that is going to be this week's show. Now, before we get into the interview with James, a couple things that I want to talk about, of course, in our housekeeping items. Number one is our Driving for Dollars app. I want to give you guys a little update on this. We are in the process of putting tiered pricing into place. So we went with unlimited pricing for a while. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out. The reason being is because we could not substantiate the abusers with the users of the app, and it's nobody's fault, but it's just the reality of what happened. So we have to put tiered pricing into effect. So basically what that means is that within the next week here, we will have multiple different tiers that come out. So we'll have a tier that'll be $20 a month. You'll get a certain amount of polls, and then it goes up from there, and you can basically toggle between which tier you want for any given month, depending on how big of a list you're going to build. And so ultimately this will make it a much better app, because you can choose the pricing for the month depending on how much data you're going to need, and it's just going to be a better long-term, we'll call it, software for us to manage and also for you guys to use. So that is what is coming down the pipe. Now, if you have not already, make sure you go download it. It's called the Driving for Dollars app. It's in the iTunes Store. It's in the Google Play Store, and you get a 5-property free trial when you sign up. You can give it a test drive and see how you like it. Now, there's been a few of you guys out there that have tried to pull some address info or skip trace info on certain addresses, and you've said, hey, this thing doesn't work. It's not pulling the info. And the reality is that it does work. The challenge that we're working through on our end is the fact that we use Google Maps as the baseline for identifying a lot of different addresses, and Google Maps has some challenges within their system where they either misidentify the town or they misidentify the zip code, and so when that gets reported back to Skip Trace, it causes issues. And so we're working through it on our end, but trust me when I say it's not the app. It's just we have all these additional services that we have to use in order to identify properties to then be able to skip trace them. And so if there's any issues with those along the way, it can cause problems with the reporting on the actual skip tracing. So just know we're working on it, but it's not actually the app's fault, and it's something that eventually will get worked out. So just want to give you guys that little bit of information. Now, other housekeeping I wanted to mention is our DFA. We're running a promotion for last week and this week. For any of you guys that are new members that join, you actually get access to our Negotiating with Sellers training for free as becoming a member. We've got a number of openings across the country in multiple markets. So if you're interested in becoming part of our Deal Finders Academy, James, who's on the show this week, is a member, as well as a number of other people. Shoot, we've got a whole panel at the Pacific Northwest Real Estate Expo that are all DFA members. And there's just a lot of great people in there that you can learn from. With basically on-demand Q&A, you get full access to myself and our entire team, and years of webinars and information, and tons of posts. It's just a great community to be a part of. And on top of that, you get access to our Negotiating with Sellers or Negotiating with Sellers product for free. All you got to do is reach out to us. We'll put a link in the show notes, but if you go to the Real Dealz podcast page, you can click on the education tab, and you can go there and it'll direct you to the Deal Finders Academy, and from there you can fill out a form. Dan will get in touch with you. He'll schedule a call, and if it's the right fit for you, we can get you to be a part of the community. Now, last thing I want to mention, multiple things, is what's up with myself and TTM. Over the past week, the biggest thing is we're getting ready for the Pacific Northwest Real Estate Wealth Expo. I think I left out some of it, but you guys catch my drift. We've got a number of things going on. Thursday next week, myself and Justin Silverio are going to be hosting a workshop, and I'm proud to say that we have reached maximum capacity on the workshop. I think we were the first ones to do it, but it's 120 people could fit into the room. I think with seats, we're telling everybody that maybe wasn't able to get in, just come, stand in the back. I'm sure we can make room for you. And myself and Justin Silverio are going to be giving a presentation all about direct seller marketing. I just looked over it today with him, and we kind of, cleaned it up, and it's going to be awesome. And so I'm going to be there. He's going to be there. There'll be a lot of time for Q&A and really just a lot of FaceTime on Thursday, which would be cool. Friday, we're having an all DFA panel talking about direct seller marketing, which would be really cool. A number of different people on that panel that you guys will recognize that are also really, really good at the skill set of going direct to seller. And then on Saturday, I'll be taking the main stage, I think early afternoon, to give my presentation to the big crowd. And I'll be talking again a little bit about direct seller marketing, we'll call it the get in the weeds on how to do it, but I'll be entertaining you guys with some pretty crazy stories from a lot of the direct to seller meetings that we've had over the years that were a result of our direct seller marketing. So I'm going to educate and entertain you on Saturday. Thursday is going to be all about education and Q&A, and then Friday should be just a fun time at the panel. We're also going to have our booths there, which will be basically Justin will have his booth for open letter marketing, which will be right next to ours, which is a Real Dealz booth and a Driving for Dollars app booth. So if you have any questions about the app or you want to just come by and say hi, we'll be there. We've got t-shirts, a bunch of other cool stuff. Myself and Dan will be hanging out there for the most part if we're not speaking or on a panel, and it'll be cool to see all you guys. So come on by, say hi, and we'll be hanging out all weekend. There is a Blazer game, I think, on Friday night, so if any of you guys want to go out, if we haven't swept the Thunder by then, if you guys want to go out and watch the game, we'll probably go out and get some adult beverages and hang out. And it'll just be a good time. So come by, say hi, and we'll hang out and talk real estate. On another front, or I guess on our real estate front, we've got a bunch of stuff going on right now. We've got a new project that I posted some pictures of this past weekend. We ripped off all the siding. We leveled out the floors. It was a 1919 house that had an addition. They put a basement on it, and when they did that, they framed it a little crooked. So the house kind of crowned in the middle. And so we actually had to jack the house up. We had to cut down a couple of the beams, and we have to let the house settle now. And so the floors have leveled out. We ripped off all the vinyl siding, or it's like aluminum siding, I guess it was, that maybe Sears sold them at some point, and we're going to re-side the whole house. We got to reset all the windows. We're going to put some new flooring in, and new doors and trim, paint it, clean the roof, do some landscaping, and it'll be ready for market. It's a mouthful, right? But we're well on our way, and it should be done, I don't know, probably another 3 weeks, something like that is what we're anticipating. Maybe 4. Sometime in May it'll be on the market. But we've got another one that's finishing up this next week that'll be ready for market just as I'm heading up to the Expo in Seattle, which is a really cool house. It was probably our ugliest house that we started with. That will be a really cool product once it's finished. Great neighborhood in Lake Oswego. It should sell really quickly. And we're also framing walls at our multi-million-dollar Dunthorpe project, which we've been featuring in our $1 Million Build series. So it'll start to look like a house here very soon. We'll probably shoot another episode of $1 Million Builds coming, I don't know, sometime this next week, maybe the week after, as soon as the house is actually framed and you guys can see what it looks like. I think that'll show good progress and it'll make for a good episode. And then this next week, we're actually closing on a new lot that'll be build ready that we're buying from another developer friend of mine who went through an annexation process and a sewer main extension and all kinds of stuff that just causes you brain damage with the city. And he's got a 15,000 square foot lot in Lake Oswego that we're buying from him, and we're going to go ahead and build a new contemporary style house, about 2,900 square feet, and we'll be starting on that here real soon. So we got a lot of stuff going on, and a variety of other leads that we're working, deals that we're working, and properties that we're looking to sell. But that's the Cliff Notes version. So without further ado, let's get into the rest of the show and the interview with James Thornton. All right, Real Dealz podcast listeners, I want to talk quickly about our show's sponsor, Iron Bridge Lending. If you guys have not reached out to Iron Bridge already to talk to them about funding some of your upcoming flip projects, I highly encourage you to do so. I've known the owner of Iron Bridge for a very long time. I personally borrowed millions of dollars from them over the years to do a number of different projects, and I can say without a doubt, they are the best hard money lending company I have ever come across, and that is the reason why they are the sole sponsor of this show. I've had a lot of other companies reach out to me and want to sponsor this show, but I just won't do it. I feel like I need to be genuine in who we have sponsoring the show, and it needs to be somebody that I've personally done a ton of business with. So I personally vouch for their ability to be the best, hands down, in the world of hard money lending. You won't find better programs, you won't find better terms, and they're lending or will be lending in over 20 states. So chances are, if you're hearing this in whatever state you're in, it's definitely worth it to check out their website, reach out to them, see if they're lending in your state, and if they are, I would absolutely encourage you to do business with them. Another very cool thing to note is that they have a program for most rehabs where you can actually borrow up to 90% of the purchase price. Now, this is given the fact that you are actually buying a deal, which if you're listening to the show, that means you probably are. But if you have an actual deal on the table, they'll fund up to 90% of your purchase price, and they'll even give you rehab funds on top of that, which means that it only takes 10% down to get into a project, which is unbelievable in the hard money world. So do yourself a favor, reach out to Iron Bridge Lending, have a conversation with them, see if they're a good fit for you and for your next project. I can guarantee you that you'll be happy that you did. All right, everybody out there in Listener Land, I have a special guest for you guys this week. It's an individual that I've known for a long time, and I've also known his very lovely wife, Violet, who's also an awesome person. But more importantly, he is in the Phoenix market, which is a super competitive market. It's been something that he's been experiencing, and I've been kind of vicariously experiencing through his business for a while now. And it's just been amazing to see what he has achieved over the past 9 months specifically. But I think there's a lot of challenges and successes that many of you out there can really kind of resonate with and kind of understand. And so that's why I wanted to bring him on the show. So without further ado, James, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Tucker. Appreciate it.
So we've known each other for a while. You've been a longtime DFA member. You were in our initial round of the REI Deal Generator, and obviously we spent a lot of time talking on Skype and in person and otherwise. And over the last 9 months, your business has very impressively grown, we'll put it. But Before we get into the positive stuff, because there's a lot of it, I want to kind of jump back to, let's say, a year ago, because I would say from the time that I've known you and we've talked about business, specifically this business, probably about a year ago, I'm guessing, was about we'll call it the most maybe questioning, struggles, challenges as to whether or not this business can really work for you. Would you say a year ago was probably the pinnacle of that?
Yeah, maybe just a little bit more. Probably back in January last year, we were just doing a ton of our own marketing, producing a lot of our own mail, and it just took up so much time. Put a lot of deals together really quickly, and then they all just sort of evaporated and fell through. So that was a little frustrating.
Yeah, I could imagine. And we talked about a lot of it, but maybe let's give the listeners a little bit of paint them a picture here. So you're operating in the Phoenix area, specifically what parts of Phoenix?
Yeah, so we're focused in Scottsdale, Arcadia, and Paradise Valley. We moved up from the Tempe and Ahwatukee regions. I think primarily we did that just kind of looking across the market and looking at some of the competitors in the area and realized there was a little bit more of a hole there in that market that we could try to focus there and do a little better.
Yeah, I love the Paradise Valley area, which I've told you many times. I think if I was going to live there, that's probably where I would live. But definitely a little higher price points there as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of the price points for what we're looking at, we're buying properties, in the 400,000 range before we fix them up and put them back on the market.
And what's the average in Tempe? Generally, people are selling for somewhere 2 to 3, high 2s, low 3s.
Yeah, we're probably, acquisition price in Tempe now is probably 250 to 300,000, and the after repair values are selling in the 400,000 range.
Gotcha. So a year ago, let's kind of get into the mind of James a year plus ago, maybe not last January, right? So you were essentially trying to do everything. You had a lot of marketing going out the door. Where was your head at? What were you feeling about this business? And more specifically, what were some of the biggest challenges or just mental hurdles that you had that you were trying to deal with?
Sure. I mean, I think a lot of it is all kind of, you have a lot of fears of, is this going to work out? Are you going to get enough leads? Are you going to be able to convert these leads to create revenue? Because at this point, I was doing it full time. I had walked away from a W-2 job, and I kind of felt like this pressure to replace that income quickly through, rehabbing and flipping properties. And when you have that pressure of feeling like you're losing out on income by chasing this dream, you really want to see some of these deals come to fruition where you can earn some money and start putting that back in the bank.
Yeah, I can understand that. That's for sure. I know that, you kind of strung a few deals together here and there. You were buying, I think you bought from a few wholesalers, right? And kind of did some skinnier deals along the way.
I did, yeah. We there's a lot of wholesalers here in the Phoenix Valley. We probably get 30 to 40 leads a week from other wholesalers. They're very skinny. Occasionally we run across one that we think is a good opportunity, and we'll go ahead and try to execute that contract and do a renovation project. But sometimes we find that I think the specific property you're talking about, that maybe there's something unique about it that's probably why a wholesaler got a hold of it, right?
Yeah, sometimes.
But yeah, I think for us, when you're working with a skinny deal and you're not making as much as you want because you're dealing with a wholesaler, sometimes it kind of slows you down on how much you're willing to go out and spend on your marketing budget to generate more leads, right?
Yeah, I mean, that seemed to be probably your biggest concern thinking back, is that, you had these deals where you were doing decent sized renovations and maybe squeaking out 20, 30 grand, right? Maybe.
Yeah. We had a few that were pretty nice, a little bigger than that. But yeah, when we got one that it came in, I think just under 20,000, we thought, man, we better rethink this, because if we had to pay a little bit more in commissions or something, this could have gone the other way.
Yeah. And thinking about it and just kind of airing it out here, I mean, there are a lot of guys in Phoenix that do a lot of deals at those kind of margins, aren't there?
There are, yeah. I think, though, they're really based towards trying to do 50 plus houses a year. And unfortunately, we weren't able to source that many ourselves per year.
Right. Yeah. If you're going to do kind of thinner margin, you got to have a bigger machine to kind of get those number of deals cranking so that at the end of the year it adds up. Eventually, people figure out that that's a great way to burn yourself out. But
yeah,
you figured it out early. So I applaud you for that.
Yeah, I think you've spoke about it before too, where you kind of find yourself running all over the valley and you're not really focused in the neighborhood you want to be in. And at some point, you end up realizing I'm just driving everywhere trying to get work done.
Yeah, and that sucks. What do you think at that point, let's say last January, I mean, were you most afraid of just kind of the unknown of if you were to up your marketing budget, is this going to ROI for me? Was that probably your biggest fear, you think?
I think it was. There's a lot of guys that get started in this while working full time, and I think that maybe it's a little underspoken what an advantage that provides to them, right? If you know your bills are paid and you know the income's coming in and you want to spend a little bit on marketing, maybe you feel like you're spending money that may not come back to you, but at the same time, everything's taken care of, right? I was doing this full time, spending money on marketing and watching that savings account go down was a kind of a stressful thing for me, realizing that I still had to have, if a deal came in, funds to put a down payment down, go through the rehab budget. It was very nerve-wracking for me, actually.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to dredge up bad memories, but I think a lot of people struggle with this, which is why I wanted to talk about it, because you've got to have faith that eventually it's going to work, but at the same time you got to be doing the right stuff. And that's I know that you figured that out along the way, but did you feel like maybe you just didn't know if you were spending the money in the right way or going after the right leads or had the right systems in place in order to capitalize on it? Did any of those fears kind of creep in or concerns, we'll call them?
Yeah, I mean, I was working similar lead lists that a lot of guys would work. I would try to, I guess, get very niche in the list, but at the same time, I wasn't spending a lot of money for my leads. So a lot of people were marketing to those same people. I think really what it is when you get down to going and using ListSource and purchasing very large lists, all of a sudden you realize that, there's a lot of money going out just for leads that you haven't even tried to contact yet. And then you're going to go ahead and create, a direct mail marketing campaign, or you're going to do an RVM campaign, and you start realizing all these little things add up. And before you know it, you can spend $5,000-$10,000 in marketing and you really don't have any promising leads yet.
Yeah, this is true, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we just spent this week, we just we got postage for everything that we dropped, and we just dropped $900 on postage yesterday, and then of course we've got the production costs of all the mail, and that's not even outsourced costs, that's doing it internally. So it adds up for everybody, and then of course on the front edge of that, you're trying to think, well, when the hell am I going to get this money back, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and then I think to kind of combat that, I mean, we were spending a lot of time producing that mail ourselves. So literally it was me at the house, printing out, 500 to 1,000 mailers a week, trying to get them all stuffed, trying to get them folded, and just it was a headache. To then when calls do come in, it's great, but you got to get out of the house, you got to meet with somebody, you got to sit down with them, put a contract together, evaluate that community, and see where you're going to end up. And honestly, time was a big, I didn't have enough time for everything.
Yeah, you kind of bottlenecked it essentially, right?
I did. Yeah. As soon as I had a project, the marketing would just stop. So,
which is normal. I mean, a lot of people that are kind of got a solopreneur style business going, if they're doing everything, it's a little bit feast or famine. And I think that was kind of the cycle that you were in. So we'll take it back to we'll call it May, June last year. And at that point, you decided to kind of take the leap of faith, we'll call it, and you joined our initial round of the REI Deal Generator program with myself and Justin, and we basically then worked together for 6 months. Why did you take that leap of faith? Why, besides the fact that, of course, you like me, but beyond that, what were you looking for that maybe was missing at that point that you thought could help you moving forward?
Sure. Yeah, I think at that point, I really needed the confidence to know that I was spending those marketing dollars in the right place, and knowing that, and you guys guiding me to the right list, the right system, the right mail piece, knowing that was going out, whether I was producing it or not, just kind of working with Justin and OLM. That was very helpful. But I think the number one thing was I just wasn't getting traction yet, and I needed to start getting a deal flow that would allow this to really become a business for me.
Yeah, and we, eventually that did happen, of course. But we spent a lot of time, I do remember, kind of looking at the different areas of your market and making sure that we were marketing in a place that would be, we'll call it, most conducive for the type of business that you wanted to run, which is partly why we shifted up to, Scottsdale, Paradise Valley, and part of those areas, because down below we were kind of like, well, you're kind of doing low dollar, low profit type deals. And you wanted to do less deals, more profit, essentially.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, I was kind of talking it over with my wife, and it's kind of like you guys were the GPS for me, telling me where to go and how to get there. And I just wanted to jump in the fast lane and get there as quickly as I could. So I think for me, I just kind of put that in your guys' hands and trusted you guys and said, I'm just going to do everything they outline and keep to this marketing schedule and all the consistency and see where this ends up, because I didn't have anything to lose, right?
Well, you had money, right?
I mean, either way, I'm going to spend that marketing and trying, right? So,
right, of course.
It's better to know I'm doing it the right way than questioning along the way if I'm doing it right or not.
For sure. So we basically then worked kind of side by side with you for 6 months. What do you think? I mean, obviously we helped get the marketing out the door and whatnot, but do you feel like having myself and Justin kind of looking over your shoulder, reaffirming that we're in the right areas, the right marketing sequence and all that, how do you feel like that helped you?
Yeah, it was extremely helpful. I think for me, one was knowing that we were in the right area, which after we made a shift, it was very clear that my response rates went up and that I was not competing with as many competitors anymore. That was huge. In addition to that, after I'm going out on appointments, I started realizing that sometimes I'm talking myself out of these deals because I'm worried the seller may not accept the number that I'm going to offer them. And you guys were like, hey, just make an offer on everything. And so I would, even though sometimes it would be uncomfortable. And, what did that lead to? It led to more contracts and more opportunities. And that was great. I couldn't have done that without you guys. And just kind of looking back, it's like, that was a simple little twist that made a big difference. And that was just kind of my mindset that needed to be changed a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you had a lot of leads that we talked about, really. Now that I think back on it, and maybe one of them, that first one that came in, I don't know if that one's still hanging around or if you ever made contact with that guy again, but that was a potentially good lead. I remember that first one, you were chasing the guy down for a long time. But
it was. Yeah, that was a unique one too, because I mean, I probably would have driven past that property and forgot about it, and you guys really pushed me to just keep pursuing it. And I have not been able to close that deal yet. I think he's still in limbo on what he wants to do. So,
well, you know enough to know where he's at, right? So that's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think? So besides the fact, okay, we went through this kind of, we'll call it a maturation process of, you discovered that you couldn't bottleneck the marketing system anymore. You had to probably outsource that in order to have the time to do the other stuff. We were kind of working alongside you just to kind of help redirect you and just kind of reaffirm that, you need to do this or that. But now, fast forward to today, how does the marketing machine look different today than it did a year ago for you?
Yeah, I mean, so a year ago, I was actually not consistently using RVM or even direct mail. I would send out some mail, I'd get some responses, we'd make some offers, maybe we'd get one offer accepted, we'd work on that for 3 months or so, get it sold, and then start up the marketing machine again. And now what's nice is outsourcing it. I know it's going out every Friday, right? So my mail is going to drop. I don't have to get too worried about it. The phone calls come in while I'm on a job site. I take a phone call, and an hour later, I'm sitting in front of a seller, just kind of talking with them, seeing how I can help them. That's a big difference, especially now that we've honed in that area that we're at. That leads aren't all over the valley. They're probably where I'm working at today, and that's super helpful. I think a big part of it, though, is just the consistency, right? I think with anything, if you stay consistent, you'll start to get some traction eventually, as long as the effort's put in the right place. And you guys directed that effort, got me set up, and really it's been extremely helpful.
Well, it's good to hear. Yeah. Honestly. But beyond that, how has it changed? I mean, I know it's changed dramatically, but a year plus ago, how has your feelings towards marketing changed in terms of before, it was kind of like, well, is this going to work? Am I going to get the ROI on it? Should I be doing this? Compared to today, how has your mindset about marketing changed?
Well, before I was nervous, and now that we're bringing in a lot of deals and we're starting to produce a lot of revenue, I'm not really concerned with that cost anymore. And it's nice once you see that shift. And, in addition to that, like once we had done a couple additional deals, I actually went and I don't know if I had shared this with you or not yet, but I prepared all my marketing for the next 9-10 months, which is a huge relief to know that I don't have to think about that or a bill to pay or what's going on there. For me, I'm not scared to put any money into direct mail now, knowing that, the response rate is actually fairly good for me, and that it's going to lead to probably 10x the revenue or more that I've even put into it.
That's kind of what I was getting at.
Yeah,
because you've made a big change mentally just from the time that we've talked. From a year ago, it was more of a skeptical point of view, we'll call it, and for good reason.
It was incredibly skeptical at first.
Yeah.
Even after I joined the DFA a couple of years ago, I went and met with Elliot and Greg and even Rory, and I felt like, wow, I don't know if this actually works, and now I'm like, how much mail can I afford to send?
Yeah, I think that's we'll call it the change that a lot of people, they get stuck on one side of the bridge, right? And you made it over to the other side, and that's why I kind of wanted to talk about it. But the change that you've made, just that I've seen from being skeptical to now being, we'll say, so confident that you've prepaid for your marketing for 9 months. That's the old James would not have done that.
No, not at all. I would have been, pinching those pennies a little bit.
So let's talk deals, because we've been kind of setting the table here of, how you changed the business over the last year. But the first deal that I've got a list of them here, and I'll let you talk about what you want to talk about. You can omit what you don't. But I remember the first deal that you actually inked that we sold during the program. It was a wholesale deal, right?
It was, yeah. We picked up a single family home in a prime location, a highly sought after area called McCormick Ranch. That particular property, we were thinking we were going to renovate it, and we were looking at the construction schedule, and you were kind of encouraging me, hey, why don't you look at wholesaling this or wholetailing this, just so that we could get the ball rolling faster, right? Let's bring some revenue back in. Let's continue to focus on more deals and more opportunities rather than focus on a renovation right now during this program. I think that was definitely the right call. So we reached out. We tried to put together a little bit of a buyer's list. We had some interested parties that, for whatever reason, it didn't quite work out. But in the end, we ended up putting it on the MLS, and we shared our floor plan that we had put together for our renovation. We found a buyer that they happened to be a window manufacturer out of Utah and a builder there, and it was a perfect project for them where they could just really transform the property at a very low cost, and it worked out for both parties. It was great.
Yeah, that was a great deal, mainly because I actually had Chris reached out to me that you had chatted with. I won't say his last name on here, but he was like, I don't know if that price is gonna work, because I had said, well, what if he just buys it and resells it, And he's like, I don't know. It's like, somebody's got to buy that at that price, and he was like, I don't know. And then we hopped on that call, and I said, just list that thing. I bet somebody buys it. And lo and behold, it didn't go right away, right? So there was a little bit of nerves there.
Once I listed it, I think I listed it 60, 70,000 over what we paid for it. And yeah, we did a little bit of cleanup, but nothing that cost a ton of money. And I think we had an offer within 10 or 14, like 10, 12 days. It was really quick. It just took about 30 days to close on it. So I think we owned it a total of maybe 50 days.
And there you go, $31,000 later, right?
Yeah, it was $800-900 a day just to hold that thing.
but you moved it, and you made a decent profit. So that was kind of the momentum creator, we'll call it. Where did it go from there? Because I see another one on your list here that has a sizable profit attached to it, and I don't know all the details on that one. So maybe you can pull back the curtain for me.
Yeah, that first deal that we bought that from a landlord. That was the one there in McCormick Ranch. And he had a friend that the seller had a friend he works out with all the time. He says, hey, why don't you give this guy a call? So it was a referral. And I think that guy called me before I got back to him. So anyways, the referred friend ended up selling us a property. He sold that to us at $485,000. We're actually going through a renovation on it now. Sales price on that looks to be about $729,000. So it's a sizable deal. I'm pretty excited about it.
What? How big of a renovation is it? Decent sized? Or we don't have to give dollar figure exactly, but
yeah, it was one of those homes that you're kind of in between. Do I wholesale this or rehab this? And the reason is the renovation that was there was probably 15 years ago, and it was pretty. It looked good, but it just needed to be a little bit more modern to get top dollar. So we decided ultimately it was worth doing. We did floors, cabinets, countertops, all the lighting throughout, new bathroom and shower surrounds. We did the whole thing. Really, the only thing we didn't touch was the exterior other than some paint. So,
well, you guys don't have to do much to the exteriors in Phoenix, it seems. Just paint them, right? That stucco holds up. Well, I take that back. You got to replace the AC on the roofs often. But other than that, they seem to stay pretty well.
Yeah. In fact, we did have to replace one of the two ACs on this home. But we were pretty fortunate that they had just put down some nice pavers in the backyard. They had a beautiful pool. It was a large lot. It's in a great location. I think for us, it was really, I think if it wasn't a referral, it may not have been such a great deal. But I think what we found is through referrals, you can do pretty well.
Yeah. Well, it's the spider web of the marketing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, this guy that sold to us, so the second seller, he actually was talking with his brother, and his brother invited us out to walk his property as well and give him an offer. And we didn't quite work anything out there, but it was surprising to see 2 or 3 referrals pretty fast.
Well, I guess that just says people like you, right? Which is a good thing when you're in the sales side of this business. So that looks like it could be a real nice, we'll call it potential 6-figure deal for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
When do you think you're going to hit market with that?
We've gotten almost that home was renovated in 5 weeks. It'll hit market May 1st, and we're probably about 90% complete with it right now.
Okay. All right. So you're just a couple weeks out from getting that thing on the market then?
Yeah, about 2 weeks. So
very cool. Now the coolest deal on this list is obviously a new potential residence for yourself. So what's up with that one? Where'd that come from? Yeah,
absolutely. That one we had put together a marketing list there working with you and Justin, and this lead they lived out of state and they were getting ready to move, and so this had been a vacation home for them, and in particular this home also needed a new AC. The pool hadn't been functioning in about 5 years, so they couldn't have just put it on the market and sold it. So we came in and made them an offer and agreed on a price, and we were able to close on that for a new personal residence with long-term financing, and I think that's going to work out really good for us. We're planning to live in that probably 12 to 18 months before it may become a rental property, and it's in one of the hottest areas in town, right in the Kierland Commons area.
I'm sure Violet's pretty happy about that.
Yeah. In fact, Violet was super excited because she works in construction as well, and she was given a project that's up in Cave Creek about 10, 15 minutes north of this, which she drove home from that one evening. It took her 3 hours to get home, and she said, "I can't wait to move into this place."
Yeah, I don't blame her there. But the reason why I like that deal so much is because for my own personal houses, the last 3 that I've lived in, actually 4, it's been, okay, I want to be in this area. I do some marketing, see who calls, and then we either find a lot or a house that we can renovate, and that's where we end up living. So it kind of gives you the power, I guess, to go kind of pluck houses for yourself out of certain areas that you want to be, which is awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty exciting. I think with this one, it's almost 6 figures in equity on it, so we're very happy with the outcome.
Well, you can sit on it for 24 months and take it as tax-free money, or you can sit on it for however long and rent it out and probably cash flow it pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. So
then moving forward, then, what do you have on the horizon, and kind of what do you got going on in terms of leads coming in, Dealz and just kind of what you want the business to do moving forward? I know you've prepaid for 9 months worth of marketing, so I know you're probably working those leads pretty hard.
Yeah, we are. In fact, I think because we mentioned that we're going to be moving, we had gone through, what are we going to do with our current property? We're planning to use our current property as a rental. That's looking pretty promising. We've got a couple other leads that have come in that, I made an offer, and I think we'll get to a contract this week on a home that we're going to pay $320 for it. And ARV in that area is about, it can range depending on how far we go with the addition, but about $650,000 to $700,000. So that's another really great opportunity and a great lead. That one came because it was just kind of an odd probate deal where the seller is going through probate on another property they're going to move into, and we have to get through their schedule and their closing in their 90 days in that probate. So they needed kind of a flexible term and to find a buyer, right? That worked out really well. And then just this morning I got 2 more referrals that came in from, I've mentioned in the past, we have a little bit of a property management business that we were getting ready to just kind of close down. And that came from somebody I was turning over some accounts to. So he kind of reached out to me and said, hey, I got a realtor friend. They've got 2 properties off market. One's a hoarder house. The other one, somebody had passed away in it. Would you be interested? And it was really neat to see another referral come in that way. Man,
you get a lot of referrals.
Yeah.
More than anybody I know. I mean, not more than anybody, but you get a lot of referrals. Which says that's a good thing, man. That says a lot about you.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's 5 or 6 referrals in just about 8-9 weeks. So that's been really helpful. And then we've had a couple other leads come from direct mail. Some of them are kind of older. They're not sure where they're going. The sellers are older and they haven't decided where they're going to go yet. So we're working through those. And then we kind of mentioned this other property that we're rehabbing right now. The neighbor came out and was chatting with me a couple of days ago, and they're considering selling and moving closer to their kids. So that may develop into something, which is neat.
Very cool. So you've got quite a few people on follow-up at this point, and they'll probably 1 or 2 of them will pop as you sell off the current flip and obviously get moved, is my guess.
Yeah, that's the goal. I mean, at this point, we actively own 3 homes. One will become a rental, one will be selling shortly, and then we'll move into the 3rd one. But what's interesting is as you get more and more of these, you go through, how do you renovate 2 projects at a time? How do you finance all these projects at once? So we're growing in a lot of ways. That it's not just the marketing machine that's growing, but we're having to learn how to manage these a little bit better and how to be very clear with our contractors and even dealing with sourcing materials, right? It's taking a lot of effort to do that for multiple projects.
What does your contractor situation look like now? The same guy, or are you using multiple?
Yeah, we're working with the same guy, which is really great. We've actually been able to partner a few renovations with them, which has worked out really well. And then some of them, it's a contractor-investor relationship, which works great as well. In addition to that, we actually just hired a designer who has a construction background, she will do some of the project management on site with us. So she's working directly with our contractor now to make sure that any of the on-site details are completed. So she's even done like 3D renderings of our designs. She's got all the photos up in each room for showers or tile layouts or backsplashes, fireplace design, things like that. So it's neat to have her available to quickly to make decisions on site, like what's the appropriate schluter or how are you going to finish an edge. And she doesn't live too far away from our marketing area, so she's kind of she's been a real asset that we just recently added.
Very cool. And then what about the growing on the money side? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have any relationships yet with private lenders. We're starting to work towards maybe 1 or 2 that may be interested in working with us. But I think what we've been doing is just kind of growing our own war chest, right? Every time I think we've got 2 properties now we own personally that we're putting HELOCs on to access quite a bit of funds, which is something that we learned from you and Justin. And that's been very helpful for us to have those lines of credit available to us.
Very cool. So playing with a little bit of house money and then leveraging it with probably some hard money as well, I'm guessing.
We are, yeah. And we've got a good relationship with a hard money lender as well, with some very favorable terms that oftentimes is very comparable to a private money lender.
There you go. There you go. So looking forward then, what do you hope the business looks like, let's say at the end of this year? Are you looking to maybe stay at doing like 2 projects at a time? Where ideally would you like the business to be, let's say at the end of 2019?
Yeah. So a couple years ago, we set the goal of we'd like to do 10 houses a year. And honestly, like we struggled to get there. Here we are 4 months into the year, and we've already got what looks like to be 4 contracts that we're going to be able to renovate. So we're actually very happy about that. We're hoping to hit that maybe 10 houses this year goal. I think that's not necessarily, I think we're going to hit our revenue goal, so it won't require 10 projects, but it would be exciting to be able to reach that number for us. I'd like to see that happen. And then adding a rental property is kind of a long-term goal as well. Everybody wants passive income, it seems like, and that is a goal that we've had for a long time, but we never took any action towards it. Everything we bought, we renovated and we sold it just to take the money now. And so being that we're turning our existing residence into a rental, I think the terms on that are very favorable to us. So it's really a nice way to play with that and see how much we'd like to do it.
Plus, you can now start to take some decent amount of depreciation to offset some of your income.
Yeah. So that's been a new challenge recently.
Yeah. Well, you said something that I think is important in there that hopefully people caught, but you said you're going to hit your revenue goals, but you may not need to do as many projects to get there, which I think that's important because a lot of people, especially in the Phoenix market, are very big on number of deals and not so much on margin per deal. Mm-hmm. And so there's kind of 2 ways to do this business. One, as we mentioned before, you can do 50 deals a year that are much slimmer to get to the same numbers that 10 juicy deals can get you. And I think that's the right choice for you.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And in the market that we're playing in now with acquisition prices closer to $500,000, I don't think it would be reasonable for us to expect to do 10 projects like that, at least not yet. But again, the revenue goal that I was shooting for, I think we've already achieved it now 4 months into the year. So we definitely need to set some bigger goals.
Yeah, well, there you go. Those are good problems to have, right?
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, I'm going to put you on the hot seat here and ask you, what would be your best piece of advice for somebody that maybe is sitting in the seat you were in a year ago, January, that was maybe in that skeptical seat, that was questioning, that was unsure? What's the best advice that you could give them from getting from that point then to where you're at mentally now?
Sure. Well, I think for me, everything was fear related, right? You're skeptical. You don't know what the answer is. You're not sure if the steps you're taking are the right steps to get you where you want to go. That being the case, just kind of look around you and try to identify the people that are in the position of where you want to be. For me, I think working with yourself and Justin, and also being able to communicate pretty heavily with Elliott Smith, he's been a tremendous help for us to see where he started, how he got there, and which way we're moving. Even being a member of the Deal Finders Academy, anytime we have any questions, and then participating in the yearly events that we're going to with you guys, it's great to see where people came from and how they got there. And it helps shorten that learning curve for you. It helps you identify, I guess, reduce and eliminate those fears that you have and identify the direction you want to go so you can get there quicker.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. Plus, Elliott's a wrecking ball. He just goes and does stuff, right? So he's a good guy to follow.
Yeah, he's been a blast to hang out with. Every time he comes to Phoenix, we end up hanging out with him, and we got to spend some time with his newborn. That was fun.
Very cool. Yeah, he's got this game down, that's for sure, and he got there pretty quickly. So he's definitely a good guy to emulate and learn from, and of course, it's part of the DFA as well. But
yeah, absolutely.
Well, hey, James, I want to thank you for coming on today, and more importantly, just applaud you for the, I guess, growth that you've had over the last year. It's been tremendous. And I will say one of the biggest reasons why I think you got the traction that you did and you've kind of advanced from where you were is, number one is you're really good with people. But number two is you stuck to the marketing schedule that we created for you, and you were by far the most consistent person that we had. And then, of course, because of that, you've got, a number of additional leads to work that then turn into deals. Those deals spider web into referrals. And before you know it, now you've got a pretty full business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. So I appreciate you having me on today.
Well, hopefully everybody took a little bit of information from you, and they can take, where you were, and hopefully if they're in that spot, they can now see where you've come to, and they can, follow that path. All right, what'd you guys think of that interview with Mr. James Thornton? He's a great guy. He's been on this journey for a while now, and I'm just really stoked to see the amount of success and traction that he's gotten over the last 6 to 9 months, and couldn't happen to a better guy. And him and his wife, Violet, very good people, and it's just really cool to see them really kind of get over the hump and, really start making some solid money in this business and really just open up the horizons of what's possible. And like I told him after we recorded the interview, it's just the tip of the iceberg for him. So hopefully you guys got a lot out of that interview. I know that I enjoyed doing it. Now, for those of you that might be interested in joining our next round of our REI Deal Generator program with myself and Justin Silverio, we will be opening it up again here probably in about a month. So reach out to us and we can see what we can do for you. There'll be a link in the show notes page, probably a link in the email as well for the website that you can go to kind of put in your information in order to have a call with Dan and chat with us. But that was the program that James went through. It's a 6-month program. We basically work with you side by side, building your business, building your brand, setting up your marketing machine, execute the marketing, going through leads with you, and really just kind of helping you get up to speed on this world of direct seller marketing and doing it right alongside you. And so by the time we're done, you can then take off and you can do things like James. Now, to James's credit, I will give him this. He stuck to our marketing schedule that we created for him, probably 85-90% of what we said he should do, and he did it. And so that's on him. He did that, and he just followed the instructions. He followed the marketing schedule, and look what happened. Good things, right? So anyway, reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. We're about a month away from our next round, and we'd love to get a bunch of you guys in there to help you guys so that you can experience a lot of the same success that James has. But more importantly, hopefully you guys got a lot of value out of hearing his story and really hearing the progress that he's made over the last year. And I want to thank James again for coming on the show. So that wraps up this week. But before I get out of here, I'll leave you with a closing success quote. And this week's quote, I will say, is by the Philadelphia 76ers, because I don't know who really said it. But the quote is, trust the process. All right, guys. I'll see you all next week.